I don't hate Draymond Green, the player, but the DPOY should be Evan Mobley. The 2025 NBA season is coming to a close, and with that, every major award race is wrapping up as well. I can't remember a time where so many awards were so up in the air. So in today's video, I'm going to be predicting who I think should win every major award, as well as who I think will win. I also would like to see your guys' award ballots filled out in the comment section below. All I ask is that the discourse in the comments remains civil. At the end of the day, it's just basketball. No reason to be mean to each other over it. But with that said, hello everybody, welcome to Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel and drop a like on this video, and check us out over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you would like to enjoy this as an audio-only experience on another platform. Also, real quick, for the playoffs, we are aiming to cover every single playoff game in a recap format on this Rusty Bucket channel, where we go through the highlights, break down everything with a little bit more nuance. And then over on Little Rusty Buckets, we are going to be doing immediate after the buzzer, just quick fire reactions, talking into a camera straight for 10 minutes and then being done with it there. So yeah, go check out Little Rusty Buckets if you have not already. And those of you who are already subscribed to that channel, who have enjoyed the community that we've built over there, that's not going anywhere. I'm still uploading the not playoff coverage videos there as well, just with a little bit less frequency. But with that said, that's enough yapping. Let's go ahead and get into these awards. Now, for Sixth Man of the Year, who will win is looking like it's going to be Peyton Pritchard, which I don't think is a bad pick. By no means do I think this is egregious, but I wouldn't pick Peyton Pritchard personally if it were up to me. I would go with Ty Jerome of the Cleveland Cavaliers, because I believe that Ty more encapsulates the idea of what a sixth man is, where Peyton really is just a starter who comes off of the bench, which that's not disqualifying for the Sixth Man of the Year award, but I think when you look at what their production to minute ratio is, Ty stands out as the better player. Peyton plays like 6 to 7 more minutes per game than him throughout the season, and Ty does have the efficiency slightly in his favor, and I also think he's a much better all-around player, and he's been getting more similar minutes lately. He's still 6 shy, but 22 minutes versus 28, and since the deadline, he's averaging 14.5 points per game, which is basically exactly what Peyton Pritchard is averaging. So obviously the award's about the whole year. I'm not trying to discount that, but I think Peyton Pritchard is no better than Ty Jerome, and I don't know, I think Ty Jerome's just, I like Ty Jerome more. I think it's fine to go either way. Like, by no means is this some egregious pick. I think it's, if I had to pick someone who wasn't Ty, I would go with Peyton. It's not like the year where Dennis Schroeder got robbed of Sixth Man of the Year to, I believe, Montrezl Harrell, but I could be getting those years mixed up. With that said, Peyton is a great choice. I think Ty would be a better one, but there's not any bad pick here. Rookie of the Year is really weird. This is a hard race to choose, and it seems like Stephon Castle is going to be the player who does win this award, but I don't know. It seems kind of up in the air to me who the best rookie of this season actually was. Jared McCain probably would have ran away with this award if he did not get hurt. And as for who should win, I actually think Stephon Castle's probably the best pick. He's been the best player throughout the entire year. He's averaging 14 points per game, and he's a lockdown defender. Even if his efficiency leaves a lot of room to be desired, he has clearly displayed that he is a comfortable NBA-level player. If I was going to give the award to anybody else, though, I don't know why he is so low on the ladder, but I would give it to Jalen Wells. He's not like the flashiest player of the bunch, but he has been a consistent, really, really good NBA player pretty much out of the gate, and he's only gotten better as the year has gone along. He's a good point of attack defender, good three-point shooter, and he has some creating ability. I don't know why everywhere I look, he's like 4th or 5th on the ladder. I even saw that Zach Edey had better odds than Jalen Wells, and respect to Zach Edey, but that doesn't make any fucking sense. Jalen Wells has been way more important for Minnesota this year. Minnesota, goddamn, why do I always confuse the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies? Is it just because they're like a winter animal to me? I don't fucking know. But I would give it to Stephon Castle or Jalen Wells. I don't really have a strong pick for you. All I will say at the tail end here is that if Manas Buzelis played starter minutes throughout the entire season instead of the last 20 or so games, he would have ran away with the award. But that's an if and not what's actually real. So Stefan Castle's going to win this award, and I think that's perfectly valid. Most improved player, it's actually looking like it's going to be going to Dyson Daniels now. It seems like the odds have flipped in his favor away from Cade Cunningham, and that's for the better. I cannot emphasize enough that Cade Cunningham is a remarkable player who deserves a ton of praise and a ton of awards in his career, but I really just do not feel like the situation that he was in is illustrative of what the Most Improved Player award should be. To me, it should have easily been Norman Powell if the game restriction did not end up impacting this, but of course it does, so he's disqualified. But Cade's improvement this year, I think it is largely a matter of his circumstances improving, where I think a lot of the hype for Most Improved Player just came from people who were ignorant to what Cade Cunningham's situation was the year before. Like, a lot of people were writing Cade off, and while I had my doubts about him as a first option, I definitely was nowhere near as negative about that aspect as a lot of people were, and Cade being as good as he has been this year could not be less surprising to me, because I recognized the ability that he had. He just needed to not have the worst fucking spacing in the entire league. I would argue that Paolo Banchero is actually in a pretty similar situation to Cade from a year ago. He has better help, but in terms of the spacing and it affecting the real numbers that he can put up, the efficiency in which he can put those numbers up, I just think Cade didn't actually get that much better so much as his circumstances did. Where Dyson Daniels, yes, his circumstances improved just in terms of him getting actual minutes, but his per minute numbers are way better than what they were before, even relative to just the opportunity. And yes, this was an instance of more opportunity, but God damn, did he run away with that more opportunity. Like, it's not like a player that we saw a bunch of potential in. I'm sure there were some people out there, but in general, when the Hawks got Dyson Daniels, people were like, oh, that could be interesting. He's shown a bunch of defensive upside. We'll see. But like, he's been a very good offensive player, relative. I still think his efficiency is not great, but he puts up good like per game numbers. He can create a little bit. His 3-point shot can sometimes be iffy, but it's not a nightmare by any means. And then the dude's like breaking steal records. I think he's up there with one of the highest total steal seasons in NBA history. So yeah, I think he's a great choice. If I was going to give it to somebody else, I would go with Evan Mobley, because Evan Mobley is a great demonstration of not more opportunity, just simply being better. The availability of the type of offense that Evan Mobley has had this year has been there. It was just kind of a mental barrier that he had to get over, and then on top of that, he had to improve his jump shot. And at this point, the last couple of months, he's been taking like 4 3-pointers per game on a 40% clip, which is a high enough volume that I'm like, okay, I can't sit here and pretend like this is just a gimmick, like Jonas Valanciunas shooting threes. Like, give me a break. Oh, he shot 45% on 1.5 attempts per game. You should get him in the 3-point contest. No, I don't think that's the case with Mobley. Still going to have to prove that shooting in the playoffs, as anybody else does when they have a shooting leap, but huge jump in that category. And then his ability to attack off of the dribble, to attack a mismatch, to even attack just like a bigger wing, because a year ago, as I like to say, you could easily get away with putting a bigger wing on Evan Mobley, even like an Alex Caruso type of defender who just plays a lot bigger than he is, or like a Drew Holiday could do a good enough job on Evan Mobley. But now Evan Mobley is going to bury your ass in the basket and hit a hook shot or a floater, or just literally dunk it over you if he's got enough of a strength advantage, because he might be skinny, but he is not a weak player. All I know is I don't want it to be Cade. I'm glad it seems like it's going to be Dyson. If I had to go another direction, I would go with Evan Mobley, because he's probably the most extreme example on here of just simply being better, because his minutes didn't even jump that much like crazy. The offense featured him more, but the offense only was able to feature him more because he made these improvements. So the give and take of the Most Improved Player award, it's always a weird one to evaluate. And a lot of people have different ideas of it. I think that is probably one of the more controversial awards every single year. I feel like there's never a Most Improved Player award where people are like, oh yeah, that was easy. That was an easy runaway candidate. There's probably some time throughout history, but like I remember especially the Brandon Ingram versus Bam Adebayo most improved player race being like really, really people were going hard on that one. But yeah, Dyson Daniels is a great pick. And I especially like the idea of Dyson winning that award because while I am vehemently against guards winning the DPOY award, I am perfectly okay with Dyson winning most improved player. I think he deserves an award, and he's just as valid for this one. I think he's more valid for this one than he would be for DPOY, because while he has been a great perimeter defender, he's not the best in the league. And the best in the league, DPOY, let's just go ahead and get into that conversation. It seems like who will win is going to be Draymond Green. The odds have leaned in his favor, and man, a lot of these awards, I don't have that strong of a feeling on. Even MVP, I was really pissed when it became more of a race later in the year because I really felt like it was already locked in and done. That was more of I don't know, maybe I was a little bit more out of touch in the MVP race because I just hadn't thought about it in a while. But that aside, I'm not that impassioned about the MVP anymore, especially because it's probably going to go to who I think it should. But Draymond Green should not fucking win DPOY. It absolutely should be Evan Mobley. And here's the thing. I recognize the argument for Draymond being that the one thing that kept the Warriors afloat in the early part of the season, made them still a somewhat respectable team pre-Jimmy Butler trade, was the fact that the defense was as good as it was, and the defense was as good as it was because of Draymond Green. I am not here to disparage Draymond Green's ability as a defensive player. While he's not at his peak physically anymore, that has never been Draymond's biggest strength. His biggest strength has always been his brain and his communication ability, because he is running the ship out there on defense, telling everybody where to be, being at the right place at the right time. And then he still has the strength to defend players much bigger than him and the versatility to defend players much smaller and faster than him. He's not as quick on his feet. His vertical isn't what it used to be. His rim protection isn't what it used to be, but he's still one of the best defensive players in all of basketball. And I think it's nice that he's getting recognition for that, because it is a little bit of a shame how much this award is shaped by winning. However, if we're going on precedent here, that's historically been the case. To be a DPOY, you almost always need to be on a 50 win plus team. In fact, let me go through all of them throughout history, at least the last 20 years, just to confirm this. Rudy Gobert in 2024, I don't think his team won quite 50. No, they won 56. 56 for them. 51 for Jaren's Grizzlies. 51 for Marcus Smart's Celtics. 52 for the Utah Jazz with Rudy Gobert. 56 for Giannis and the Bucks. 50 for Rudy Gobert and the Jazz. 48 for Rudy Gobert and the Jazz in 2017-18. So that's the first under 50. 67 wins for Draymond's DPOY in 2017. 67 for Kawhi in 2016. 55 for Kawhi in 2015. 48 for Joakim Noah in 2014. So we got another 48 one. And I don't believe the Warriors are going to win 50. Maybe they're closer than I thought they were. They're at 46 with 6 games left. So they'd have to win 4 of 6. Or no, there's 4 games left. Am I stupid? I can't. 78. Yeah, 78. So there's 4 games left. They'd have to win all 4. To get into the 50 win category, but you could get to 48 and still be, I'm not trying to sit here and argue like that is strictly what it is, but a big thing is the Warriors were not very good before the Jimmy Butler deal, and Draymond Green's name was nowhere near the DPOY conversation. Maybe he was in 5th place, but he wasn't in the actual serious conversation of it. And then since the Jimmy Butler deal, the Warriors have been really good, and they're using that recent winning as okay, well, now we give him this award. We couldn't give it to him because of the lack of winning before, but we can now. But the lack of winning before was most of the season. So if you didn't consider him a candidate at all for most of the season, for him to jump up the ladder since February 10th is a little ridiculous to me. It really seems shoehorned in. It really seems like a media push to get him this award. And I really don't get why that's happening, because it's not like Draymond Green has done anything to earn public favor other than, I guess, he's worked at ESPN, so like I guess maybe he has positive associations and relationships there, and he fucking went and did an interview on that shit and said something like, this is probably the last chance I have to win this award. And I understand why he would do that, but I've never liked the player campaigning for the award thing. I've always found it tacky, and I've always felt like, I don't mind if you want the MVP, but I shouldn't feel like that's all you want. Or DPOY. And I don't feel like that's what all Draymond wants, but you generally get that kind of feeling whenever dudes are really campaigning for an award. So I just don't like this at all. Smells fishy. Draymond Green should not win this award. It should go to Evan Mobley, whose Cleveland Cavaliers have been one of the best defenses in the league throughout the entire season, and they are one of the winningest teams in basketball. They currently have 62 wins, with 4 more games to go as well. They have not been as great lately, so they might not quite get to 66 or 65, but Evan Mobley is, to me, the best defender in basketball. That's the big thing. Like, I ultimately just come down to who I think is the better defender. And in that conversation, I think Evan Mobley in 2024, 2025 is a better defender than Draymond Green. Is Evan Mobley a better defender than a peak Draymond Green? Probably not, but also maybe. Evan Mobley's defense has always been the undeniable thing about him. And I believe, especially if he's not going to win Most Improved Player, that he all the more deserves DPOY. And, Draymond's like, oh, this is the last time I could win it. I know you're old as hell, but Evan Mobley is going to have Victor Wembanyama to compete with for DPOY for the next decade plus. So it might be the last one he can fucking win. That is I think maybe that gets over-exaggerated a little bit, and sometimes even by myself, the idea that Victor's just going to win the next 10 DPOYs, because voter fatigue is real, and it won't happen to that degree, but I do think he will set the record for most DPOY awards, because he is just so undeniably the best defender in basketball whenever he's playing. But for this entire season, a guy who's been available and can win the award, Evan Mobley, man. Evan fucking Mobley. The Cleveland Cavaliers have been dominant all year, and the baseline of Mobley's defense makes them so good even when their offense is not working. And to me, he's just, you could argue Draymond has less defensive help around him, but while yes, Evan Mobley has Jarrett Allen, which is a big benefit, he doesn't have basically much else besides for that. Isaac Okoro is a good defender, but he plays like 20 minutes a game. DeAndre Hunter is a cool one, but Dean Wade's a cool one too, pretty good one. But other than like the pretty good wing defensive core and then a bunch of small guards, this team's defense is very much determined by those two big men. And between Mobley and Allen, Mobley, you can just tell, is the more astute defensive player and the more well-rounded defensive player and the more anchor of the defensive player. I don't hate Draymond Green, the player. I have really started to have a distaste for him as a person lately. And I don't think you should be able to blame me for that. I think that's a very reasonable opinion to hold, because he's done a lot of damage to his reputation in recent years. But Draymond Green, the player, just want to make this point clear. One of the most underrated players of all time, consistently denied his flowers just because A, he's a dick, and B, people think he wouldn't have been shit without Steph. But as revolutionary as Steph was to NBA offense, Draymond Green has arguably had that level of impact on NBA defense, because his versatility at the power forward spot, his ability to play the 5, his ability to defend 1 through 5 completely changed the expectation of the power forward position defensively. And with what Steph brought to the table offensively, when that became more commonplace in the NBA, Draymond's value really only increased more because of how well he was able to hold up against these modern NBA offenses, where there was a lot of teams figuring it out. Draymond had been practicing against Steph and Clay for the last couple of years. He's ready for the pace and space three-point heavy era as Steph ushers it in. And to me, he's the second best player of that dynasty, or I guess, Kevin Durant technically gets that title, but of the core three, Steph, Draymond, Clay, Draymond is better than Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson is a way better scorer, way better shooter, but Draymond's defensive impact was unbelievable for so long, and it is still pretty fucking remarkable for the age that he is at and the type of player that he is, and with some of his athleticism declining. But the DPOY should be Evan Mobley. With that said, MVP, who will win? It looks like it's going to be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and I'll just say thank God, because he is who should win. And this is another instance where I hate that I have to take up a side. I don't like doing award predictions or saying who I think should win something and who shouldn't. It's the same reason I don't like being a boss. I've had to do it historically, and man, I don't like telling people what they're going to get and what they're not going to get. It's a disaster. I feel very bad because Nikola Jokic is having an all-time great season. He is out here averaging 30, 12, and 10, or whatever the fuck it is most recently. I think he's dipped under 30. Let me just confirm that. No, he's still at exactly 30 points per game, 13 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 steals, 0.7 blocks, 58% from the field, which is around just a little higher than his league average, 41% from three on the highest three-point volume of his entire career. So yeah, Nikola Jokic having an all-time great season, but his Denver Nuggets have 47 wins. Now, I recognize that winning has become less of an important part of the MVP award in recent years. And I am accepting of that, because I do think it has been a limitation throughout history, and awards like Russ in 2017, while I would have given it to Harden, is reasonable enough. Jokic winning it the year that he was the 5th seed, thought that was completely reasonable. But when we're talking about the other candidate having 17 more wins than your team at the end of the year, could be 20 by the time we get to the end of things. Probably not, but maybe more. And the numbers are also historic. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is putting up numbers this year that only Michael Jordan has. If you look for guards who have averaged 32 plus points per game, averaging 6 assists or more, averaging 1.5 steals or more, and 1 block or more, him and Michael Jordan twice are the only guys who ever did that at the guard position. And I think it's a little ridiculous how much his reputation has been disparaged by 8.8 free throw attempts per game. I'll concede, even if 4 of those free throw attempts per game are bullshit that he shouldn't have been getting, he still would be a 29 point per game scorer, being one of the best defensive guards in basketball on the best team, while having a historical shot making season. One of the all-time great shot making seasons in the history of this fucking game out of a perimeter player. And on top of that, his all-around game is phenomenal, and his team is going to win 65 games. It should be pretty chalk at that point. I recognize Jokic's numbers are ridiculous, and they're better numbers than his other 3 MVP awards. So I completely understand how you could come to the conclusion, if he's outdone himself, and himself was the MVP 3 times, hard to pick against that. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I do think, is having a better season than Jokic's MVP seasons. I recognize there is a rebound and assist per game difference between the two, because Jokic is the better playmaker and he's a fucking center. But in terms of what is within the purview of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's impact, what he can do with what his skill set is, it is as far as it can go. He is truly, I don't even know where I'm going with this right now. So I would argue the difference between SGA and Joker as playmakers is arguably just as large as the differences defensively. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is playing the guard position, and Jokic is playing the center position, where center defense matters so much more. So with that in mind, I think the difference, just because of the box score, is really what people get hung up on. And I understand averaging a triple-double is nuts. And I've actually kind of been bothered by the fact that he was just short of one for multiple seasons. But that does not make his season better than Shai's. He maybe, even if he is playing individually better a little bit, 17 wins is a reasonable enough difference, and I don't think it's just simply a matter of the teammates being better, though that is true. You know, when you look in terms of like the creating ability of the help that he has versus Jokic, the difference isn't even that stark. As the lead option, they both have a remarkable amount of burden and responsibility, and if anything, I think that is the biggest concern I have about SGA going into this playoffs, is just that he has a very big burden and it needs to be mitigated by his teammates doing their job well, and they did not do that in the Lakers game, and suddenly life got a lot harder for Shai. So I'm rambling at this point. Let me just get to what my final predictions are, which is SGA winning MVP, Draymond winning DPOY, even though it pisses me off. I'm really hoping the voters come to their senses last second. Dyson Daniels, most improved player. Stephon Castle, rookie of the year. And sixth man of the year, Peyton Pritchard. But yeah, that is it. Again, leave your ballots in the comment section below and go check out Little Rusty Buckets to get my immediate game reactions for the playoffs as well as the play-in. But that is it. Goodbye.